Good morning, everyone, and Shabbat Shalom. In this week's Torah portion, we have the first 7 of the 10 plagues. But we find something fascinating when it comes to the 7th plague, the plague of hail. Moses comes to Pharaoh and he says, "So says God, this time I'm going to send all my plagues against Egypt, and you will know that I am God." And indeed, after the plague of hail, we find that Pharaoh comes running to Moses and says, "Okay, enough." And he says, "Chatasi, I have sinned. Hashem HaTzadik, God is righteous. Va'ani va'ami harisha'im, and me and my people are the wicked ones." This is a fascinating admittance of Pharaoh for the first time. Not by blood, not by frogs, not by lice, not by animals dying, not by boils, not by the wild beasts, but only by the hail does Pharaoh come and admit, "I am the sinner, God is righteous, and me and my people are wicked." What was it about hail that had such an impact on Pharaoh, that he made such an admittance, albeit that he reversed his decision and became hard-hearted again? But why for at least one moment did he say, "God is righteous and I am wicked"? And one fascinating answer is that when you read the Torah this week, it says that this was no ordinary hail. It says, "Ve'esh mislakachat b'toch habarad." Within the hail, within the ice, there was fire. There was a little flame dancing within each piece of hail. And that is what moved Pharaoh so much. Because what God showed Pharaoh was that everything in this world must serve God. All the forces of creation must harmonize in order to fulfill the will of God. Even fire and ice, which usually are opposites, extinguish one another. They work together in tandem to do the will of Hashem. And therefore, Pharaoh, you too must acquiesce and submit and surrender to the will of Hashem and free the Jewish people. And for at least a moment, Pharaoh got that message. And what this teaches us is the power of unity. When we can put aside our differences and say, how can we work together for the greater good? We become unstoppable, as powerful as the hail, that we could change the world and even melt the heart of someone as wicked and hard-hearted as Pharaoh. Back in the 1890s in New York City, there was a man and his aunt. His name was William, her name was Caroline. And they got into a big family dispute. And William's aunt Caroline was a socialite in New York. She had this big mansion in New York City, and the fanciest carriages would come, and she would throw the most lavish parties, and all the dignitaries would be always coming and going from her house. And William, the nephew, was seething. He was jealous. He was envious, because he was like a social outcast compared to his aunt. One day, the patriarch of the family died, and they divided the inheritance. And William inherited $100 million, and he said, "I know what I'm going to do." He tore down his house, and he built a mansion, a big hotel on his property, with 530 rooms, the most elegant, the most exquisite, luxurious hotel. And suddenly, his house became the destination of popularity, of prestige. The most important people came to stay by him. But his aunt Caroline now looked at her nephew, and she was envious. So she took the 50 million that she inherited, and she tore down her mansion, and she built a nicer hotel with more lavish rooms, more beautiful rooms, with better service. And these two hotels were rivals, side by side, competing for notoriety and respect one against another. Until the manager of William's hotel came to William and said, "Imagine if the two of you combined your hotels. What a magnificent, world-class, world-famous hotel. If you could bury the hatchet, put away your differences, you could have the most famous hotel in the world." And convinced William to do that. And then convinced Caroline to do that. And they opened up doorways and passageways between the two buildings. And hence, William Waldorf and Caroline Astor, his aunt, built the now famous hyphenated Waldorf Astoria Hotel. This is the message of the hail. Let us find ways to work together, even with those who we may think are opposite, like fire and water. But when fire and water come together, they could create and bring about the most amazing results. Have a wonderful Shabbat.